I'm Jesus, and in this video, we're going to be looking at the most hated YouTubers in Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike, by internet standards, has a pretty not insane community, again, by internet standards, but like always, it comes with its share of crazy people and also its share of YouTubers who find themselves deep in PR trouble with the community. Sometimes it's unfair, sometimes it's not, although most of the time it's a bit of both. And I am very excited to examine this collection of dumpster fires and see what sort of entertainment is contained inside of it. Let's get started. Now, this video is sponsored by SkinsMonkey. Check out SkinsMonkey to quickly and easily trade your CSGO skins. Use the code ZEUS to get up to $5 extra on your first trade, as well as a bonus when depositing. Link is in the description. Check it out today. So, Fano, unlike pretty much everyone else who's going to be in this video, isn't a particularly large YouTuber. He's a relatively small investing channel making niche content for a YouTube niche. So, why is he listed here? Well, Fano was the initiator of a controversy that caused CSGO's investment community to tear itself apart. Well, actually it was just kind of internet drama, but it certainly got him plenty of hate. So basically, Fano decided for whatever reason to post some bad investment advice on Twitter. Quote, "Currently, the only Paris Hollow sticker under $1 that's listed on the Steam market. While the sticker varies slightly from previous borderless versions, it may prove to be a sleeper that investors look back and wish they bought at these low levels. A simple 10 times is only $7.50. Now, suffice to say, pointing to a sticker and saying, but what if it was worth 10 times as much, and then passing that off as investment advice didn't exactly impress people. I'll talk about it very quickly here. $7.50 is roughly the same as the all-time peak prices for Antwerp and Stockholm ENCE Hollows at the height of the bubble, so it's not entirely impossible. Paris might one day match that number, but Paris has a lot of disadvantages and that's a long way off. I wouldn't go around predicting it, but in fairness to Fano as well, he probably wasn't being 100% literal when he said a simple times 10. But this was a nuance that was also definitely lost on the internet, and they proceeded to tear him apart like a pack of rabid wolves and turn this simple times 10 shtick into an obscure internet meme. Now, for the most part, this drama is too stupid and petty to analyze in depth. It doesn't deserve it. So instead, I'm just going to summarize the funny stuff. Basically, a Twitter mob immediately descended on Fano. Some of the comments were perfectly legitimate criticism, others not so much. Naturally, there were also a lot of allegations of market manipulation. Don't expect any evidence though, there is none. However, this did prompt other investment content creators to scrutinize elements of Fano's business model, and it may not be the most ethical thing in the world, and his advice also may not always be the best. However, this is a scene where 80% of content creators take gambling sponsorships, so I don't know if it's really fair to single Fano out when we're literally swimming in an ocean of blood money. Fano, in the meantime though, decided that the best way to respond to the controversy was with massive walls of text. I swear to God, it's like he wanted people to make fun of him. And the drama also got extended when Fano got into a fight with his Discord mods, resulting in the server being nuked. There was some very angry words being thrown around for something that began with a 75-cent Paris Hollow. Anyway, thanks to this whole drama, Fano has successfully turned himself into the investment community's punching bag, with numerous figures eagerly awaiting his next L so they can publicly clown on him for a bit of internet clout. Not that I can really criticize though, given I'm making a video on this and whacking a sponsor in it.
May chaos take the world.
So, if you were a CSGO fan in 2015 or 2016, you'll probably remember that at the time, many people were convinced that a huge number of high-level pro players were secretly cheating. A lot of pros came under intense suspicion, including big names like Shox and, most famously, Senjavac himself.
Don't mind the sound, guys, it's just my aim lock.
Now, these two players were never convicted of anything, but there were at least some cheats going around. We know this because a couple of guys did get caught, names like Kali and Emilio.
Did Emilio just get VAC banned?
Now, personally I think people did have some reasonable suspicions, but this is the internet where a large number of people are just completely insane, and the idea that a small group of pros may have been cheating just wasn't good enough for these people. Instead, these lunatics came up with a conspiracy theory that declared that basically all of them were, and the entire tournament ecosystem and Valve were engaged in a massive conspiracy to cover the whole thing up. This was the Vac Sucks conspiracy, and this is where our hero enters the picture, Mr. Dan M. So who is Dan M? Well, he's an ordinary nerd just like you and me, married with at least one kid and doing pretty well for himself, but he was also convinced that cheaters were plaguing high-level Counter-Strike, and that made him furious. So furious that he had to make YouTube videos about it. Now, Dan M's content was performative. He knew how to put in a show, and he also went to the trouble of finding the kind of hack that pros were allegedly using, and this is a fascinating watch. It genuinely shows how pros could have been cheating in their matches. But if you check the like to dislike ratio of his videos, you'll quickly notice something's not right. Something's really not right. People hated his guts, and it seems like there were a couple of problems. Firstly, Dan M liked to target very popular players like Fallen and Stewie2K and GetRight. Now, regardless of the merits of the claims you're making, doing that is gonna make a lot of fanboys hate your guts, and that's the best case scenario, because he also had another problem, and this is that some of his allegations were not very good. Now, I'm not saying every claim he made was completely ridiculous, but some of them looked like they belonged in a show trial in Soviet Russia, and when that's your evidence against, say, Stewie2K for example, well, good luck winning the public relations battle on that one, especially when you're also saying things like this about him as well.
All these fucking aim locks go around, and all these fucking suspicions, and all these accusations. Why in the world would you start doing this? It's the shadiest thing ever, makes you look terrible, makes your organization look terrible. It's extremely shady, extremely suspicious.
And this basically ensured that a massive contingent of the community came to really not like Dan M. And by 2017, the allegations of cheating were drying up anyway. Was it because people were coming to their senses and realizing it was all bullshit? Or was it actually because the pros stopped cheating? We will never know for sure, but with players seemingly hanging up their cheats and his videos scoring like to dislike ratios only slightly better than Colin Ballinger's apology video, Dan M decided to move on from YouTube. I wouldn't call him a bad person, but he definitely did a shit job at getting cheaters banned.
Crisp, clean lock, boys. Doesn't get more horseshit than that.
So this is that guy. You probably know who he is. And saying he's a divisive figure is a bit like saying 3 Clicks Philip has a casual interest in farting. So anyway, Richard is, amongst other things, a journalist, a former esports host, a streamer, and most importantly, at least for the purposes of this video, a YouTuber. His channel is probably most notable for its public execution of Phantom Lord. Bro was not getting up from that one, but he's also not very well liked. I mean, he has fans, but holy shit, he has some haters. And while he might call his haters insane internet weirdos, he's certainly not in denial about them existing. I mean, the number of people lining up to dance on his grave when he pretended to quit esports journalism is quite something, but it's also not a recent phenomenon. I mean, there were threads from 8 years ago about just how much people hate his guts for unspecified reasons. We'll come back to this thread later actually, there is something very interesting here. Anyway, because this isn't a full-on Richard Lewis Law video, I'm not going to have to spend 2 hours talking about how he tried to squeeze the life out of Loader as he begged for mercy, or discussing the intricacies of the most retarded drama in CSGO history. Instead, I can just cut to the chase. Richard has done 2 things that make people hate him. One is to drop a bunch of hearty journalism on topics of genuine importance to the esports ecosystem, often bringing up difficult and uncomfortable truths that a lot of people don't want to hear. Take, for example, the Overwatch League.
Oh lord.
Richard produced a bunch of commentary saying it was shit and it was going to fail. Now, the Overwatch League was shit and it was going to fail, but Overwatch fans didn't take that too well. Similarly, he did an expose on a bunch of case unboxing sites back in 2017, revealing they were rigged bullshit. a bunch of people taking money from those sites whose names I won't mention, but they know who they are, got really upset about this. But let's be honest, those sites were rigged bullshit. In a world full of scammers and scumbags, Richard has consistently shown he's willing to weather barrages of hate to bring the truth to light. Now, the other issue Richard has is that he constantly, endlessly gets into stupid fights, particularly on Twitter, where he wastes huge amounts of his time throwing immature personal insults at randoms on the internet who are saying things he doesn't like. Now, I'm not saying these people are innocent bystanders. Many of them are saying stupid and dumb things about Richard, but this is still a catastrophically bad move when it comes to public image. It is the PR equivalent of rolling around in the mud with the pigs. And his tendency to get into these fights on the regular has led a large number of casual observers to form the opinion he's a deranged asshole. Now, I'm not saying this perception is necessarily fair, but it is 100% self-inflicted and completely avoidable. You gain absolutely nothing from fighting with nobodies on the internet when you are somebody with any kind of notoriety, especially when you lose your temper and start saying mean things. I've learnt this from experience. It's bad for your sanity and it's really bad for your brand. And Richard, unfortunately, is a very long way down the rabbit hole. Remember that Reddit thread I mentioned earlier? Well, as you can see, he's been doing this stuff for at least 8 years. And his tendency to do this has led to a lot of people judging him not as Richard the hard-hitting journalist, but Richard the guy spazzing out on Twitter. It's kind of tragic, but it's also a very obvious self-inflicted PR disaster, and if Elon could just intervene and take away the dude's Twitter for a bit, he might suddenly become everyone's favourite journalist again. So this brings us to the final on this list, and this guy really is a bit of a His name is Frankie on PC. Now, if you go to his YouTube channel, you will find videos on stuff. They've got pretty decent view counts, so whatever it is he's doing, he's clearly doing it fairly well, but I don't care about any of this. I'm just interested into his little foray into Counter-Strike. Now, basically, Frankie decided to impress some gullible children in his audience by uploading a video of himself bunny hopping in 2015 with a script. I'd show you the video itself, but for reasons that will become apparent very shortly, I don't want to take the risk. But anyone who is moderately familiar with bunny hopping in CSGO will immediately recognize that it's scripted. And on top of being scripted, it's also cringe and braggadocious as well. And this led to two people, specifically 3kliksphilip and Launders, to make content exposing the ruse for what it was. And this kind of shattered Frankie's incredibly fragile ego. And in response, he sent his army of 9-year-old fans to bombard critics with dislikes and negative comments, and also falsely copyright claimed Launders for good measure. Now, in addition to this, Frankie would upload a video on the drama where he fairly pathetically tried to move the goalposts and claim the victim. The majority of it is him defending himself over things that 3kliks and Launders never criticized him about in the first place, and he also justified his forced copyright strike on the basis that Launders was trying to profit off his great and almighty talent. But he also openly admitted that the bunny hops in it were all done on a modded offline server, and he basically started pretending, retroactively, that he never actually claimed to be able to do legit bunny hops. Now, this may have convinced some of the children in his audience, but to any thinking people, which included some of his fans, this basically came off as an admission of guilt, and most people didn't believe his explanation anyway. It sounded like excuses. In any case though, 3kliksphilip would eventually get tired of the drama with this insecure egomaniac and deleted his videos on the topic, replacing with a sarcastic apology to Frankie. Frankie would also eventually delete his CSGO content as well, probably because he couldn't handle the mean bully jerks in the comments making fun of him for pretending to be good at bunny hopping, and thankfully, he has since blessed the CS community by not being a part of it. And I think that was probably the right call on his part too. The CSGO community really didn't like him by the end of the drama, really didn't like him. And given he can't handle criticism, this game is probably not the place for him. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please like, comment, and subscribe. Otherwise, trust the numbers, not your guts. I'm Azeus. Thanks for watching. See ya.